70,000 people are here, and then Bob Dylan is the reason for it.
Inspired by their true story.
For anyone who's gonna hold your attention on a stage, you have to kind of be a freak.
Are you a freak?
Hope so.
And starring Timothée Chalamet as Bob Dylan. He defied everyone.
Turn it down!
Play loud!
To change everything.
Make some noise, BD.
Timothée Chalamet, Edward Norton, Elle Fanning, Monica Barbaro. A complete unknown. Only in theaters Christmas Day. Rated R. Under 17, not admitted without parent.
The Heed the Call podcast are running out of therapists willing to talk about child gangs.
And that's saying something here in Los Angeles. Am I right? Welcome to Heed the Call. Dan Hanzus, Marc Sessler, Justin Graver on the ones and twos, and our guy, Conor Orr. And this is, again, this is not an exaggeration if you're newer to the show. We debuted our program, I believe, on August 10th. And in that episode, we teased today's show.
We did.
Coming up later today, at the end of the episode, the Conor Orr HallmOrrk Holiday Spectacular.
Let's go! We're here. We're doing
Nothing,
it.
huh, Justin? No music cue for...
Yeah, we thought that would have been
spectacular.
apt. Here we go. I'm dressed for the occasion. Nobody
You are.
else. Yeah.
Look at you.
All right. This is Marathon Santa. He's running a race.
This is a big deal. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
And we're going to focus on two films that came out in 2024, produced by HallmOrrk. And I'm going to hope... one thing I want to get to the bottom of, Conor, when we get there, is one of the films that we're watching was under the Hallmark banner. And then another Christmas film was under the Hallmark mystery banner.
Mm-hmm.
But there were no mystery elements as far as I could tell. So let's stick a pin in that.
Right.
It's a magical world, a strange world, and you guide us through it, and are very excited.
Yeah. Boy, this has been a great year for Hallmark Originals. I feel like I've had as much fun doing this as I ever have, and I mean I've been doing this whether I've been talking about it in a podcast or not since like 2010. So this is a good year.
And just to make it clear, Mark, to the audience, Conor is not paid by Hallmark. There is no affiliation on any business level. There's no back end points to be gained. It's just for the love of the game.
It's like when you have intense national whodunit / mysteries, and there are tons of people out there dedicating hundreds of hours of their own time to get to the bottom of it. Conor has been grinding this tape for over a decade, and it shows. And in years past, I would just let him download his information. This time I dove in myself a little bit, and I told him before the show, it kind of changed not just my week, but my season, my Christmas season. It has changed it. It's altered it.
Wow,
That's
a Scrooge-esque transformation for the Sess
Well, yeah,
dog.
I heard that reference from someone else last night while we were watching it, and I was changed. So yeah.
I don't want to spend too much time on this because we got stuff to get to, but Mark, why on earth are you wearing a Philadelphia Eagles zip-up hoodie today? What the hell is going on here?
I've never worn a hoodie on a podcast ever, I think, but this was hanging I received this before we started from a friend of ours based on our previous show when we did a big read on the Eagles. And you know better than I do, actually, why I have this, because it was sent as a mystery gift to me. I believe it was associated to a read I did on Big Dom back at our previous show, and that Big Dom actually sent Eagles paraphernalia to me because of it through our good friend Connie Fox. If I'm not wrong, I believe that's the origin story here.
What a backstory.
This came from Big Dom, and I've never worn it till today, but I saw it in the closet. I thought I'll put it on.
Does it have the Italian flag on the side, on the arm?
Absolutely.
It's funny because I've never seen you wear any league-based memorabilia or merchandise ever until this moment.
I largely shun it, and I especially shun it now. But But today, a little
It
different.
feels a little bit like cozying up to all those bullies that try to come after Connor and I. We just swat them away like flies. It's like, please don't bother me. Look what I'm wearing.
Yeah, I did. I did internalize that a little bit. I'm happy for Mark. It looks comfortable, but at the same time, don't think that that's lost on me.
From episode to episode, I will cozy up to various, subgroups and factions, and that's exactly what's happening here.
As I say, within my family, home team. And right now, Mark is sleeping with the enemy.
Well, not my total intention, but...
All right, Justin with a great drop, though. Mark wearing the Eagles... zip-up hoodie, could that perhaps transfer the voodoo curse? Maybe.
So
Connor, maybe we owe Mark an apology. Maybe he's playing chess right now.
I didn't even think about that. It's so funny.
Like
yeah. I shouldn't verbalize this because then more people are just going to say it. But the thing that really... ultimately, like, if you want to get me upset, it's to suggest that you're a national analyst, so you don't even watch the games, and that's the insult that will ruin the rest of my day. And I've gotten about 100,000 of those over the last week since the Eagles beat the Steelers, and it's just like, yes, you're right. I turn the TV on and I spin around in circles until I get dizzy and pass out, and then arrive at this podcast.
Are you kidding me?
All right. Coming up a little bit later, the HallmOrrk Holiday Spectacular. We're also going to preview the beginning of Week 16, the game between who, Mark?
The Chargers and the Denver Broncos.
Well done, AFC West.
Well, I did prepare for the show. I mean,
that was really good.
Yeah.
But first, let's start with a question, actually, Mark. What does the namesake of this program... Here's a gift, by the way, behind me. Dan Soupy Campbell from the great band The Wonder Years sent this to me. Also a massive Eagles fan. So the Eagles fans are really just sending the merch our way, so maybe we should be kinder to them. It says, Heed the Call. It's a banner, and it's the name of our program, and it's the credo that we live by on the show, and it's a phrase that came into fashion in our world because of the great late Chris Wessling. I'm going to ask you, Mark, what does Heed the Call mean to you to get into the first segment today?
I think in life, there are moments where it's like, I've got to do what's right here for me, for my soul, take a chance, move, level up. Maybe you're in 7th grade and it's like, do I call this girl on the phone or do I chicken out and go back and watch He-Man? Do I take a chance here? Or do I talk to this guy across the room who's famous and I'm going to have one chance to speak to him ever and learn from him? Do I apply for this job that maybe I'm not ready for, and if I get it, I'm going to have to learn on the fly? These are things that we've all done. Do I go out and stick up for someone who's getting, made fun of by everyone else? Whether it's heed the call. It's like, be the thing inside of you, and there's something telling you to do it, and you either do it or you don't. And I think that with Wes, there are pointed and tangible examples. He came from a strange place and took a strange path to get to the NFL and become a great sports writer, but it didn't happen without him taking unusual chances, and that's what I think it means for me too.
Well said, beautifully stated. And in the world of the NFL, you look at our latest power rankings are out, and we have the Bills, non-surprisingly, on top of the world right now, and they are, the fashionable pick now for a lot of people is the team. Oh, nobody wants to see them. They feel like they're going to win it all, but man, they even gave up 500, 600 yards on Sunday, and they have some things to work on the defensive side of the ball. And then you look at the rest of the so-called contenders, and every team, you could say, take a look at that. That there's somebody that needs to step up. There's somebody that needs to heed the call. And so let's talk about who needs to heed the call. We're going to talk about on Heed the Call, who needs to heed the call amongst the contenders in the NFL. And I'll get us going. I want to talk about the Lions. We know what's happening here with the injuries. And it felt like this week, or what came out of the Bills game, was the first time I thought to myself, when they lose their best cornerback, Carlton Davis, a backup corner in Khalil Dorsey, a Pro Bowl level defensive tackle in Alim McNeil, and many of these guys are out for the year. They've lost so many key players, and then they lose, obviously, David Montgomery, their running back, to a knee injury that will require surgery. That's a major setback to the offensive side of the ball. And it's the first time where it crept into my mind is like, oh, man, are the football gods not going to let this happen? Are they not going to let the Lions finally get to the Super Bowl? Dan Campbell is doing his part in addition to being the leader of the team. You know that he's using this as motivational fodder to get the team to rally at this time when people are starting to doubt them. Here's a little bit of Campbell from a Tuesday radio appearance.
You know what happens is, you win 11 in a row, and you lose, and then the sky falls. And I hate to say it, but we're not going to be able to win 11 in a row again for the rest of this season. We're just not going to be able to do it. And, what happens is you get used to eating filet, and I'm talking to all of us, and everything's good. Life's good, but you forgot what it was like when you had nothing and you ate molded bread, and it was just fine, and it gave you everything you needed. And sometimes you got to get punched in the mouth and remember what it used to be like to really appreciate where you are. And we'll do that. And so we got a bad taste in our mouth. We got kicked around the other day. We lost a few guys. And you know what? It's exactly what we needed. This is exactly what we needed. So we're going to bounce back. We're going to respond. We got guys that are about to have an unbelievable opportunity here. And we will play the game any way needed to win. We still got a good offense. We got plenty of defensive players. I can go rattle them off right now. We're going to put the best 11 on the field. We're going to freaking cut it loose. We're going to play with our special teams. And I don't give a crap if we got to win by 1 point for the rest of the year. That's what we're going to do. And I'm going to be happy about it. We come out of the game with 50 yards of total offense and we win by 1, you're going to see smiles on my face. I promise you. All right? If it's the other way defensively, we give up 700 yards and we win by 1 point, you're going to see a f***ing smile from my ear to ear. All right? I can promise you. So we're going to find a way and we're going to get it done.
And that was 97 won the ticket, Costa and Jansen, who are like, you could tell if you're watching this on YouTube, which you should, that I don't know if it's Costa or Jansen, but having to make eye contact with his producer is like, ooh, that's another curse word. We got to pick that up. We don't want an FCC fine on this, but the content is so good. Dan Campbell is digging in. He's using it as motivation, but I think who really needs to heed the call, because I know Dan Campbell's going to do his job, and I know Jared Goff and the offense, even without David Montgomery, are going to do their job. But I think it is Aaron Glenn who really needs to heed the call, and I feel for Aaron Glenn, because Aaron Glenn is in a position right now in his life. He was a high-level cornerback for many years, including many of his best years with my Jets, and now he worked his way up the coaching ranks, became the DC of this high-profile Lions team. It feels like he is a slam dunk to be either, a very serious contender for multiple jobs in the cycle in January, or, almost certainly, I think, get a job. However, he is in a little bit of danger if this Lions defense totally craters over the last month and a half in the season, and how that could change his stock, his personal stock. So he has a lot riding on the end of the season personally, and obviously for the team. And he needs to find a way to adjust. So we're going to learn, I think, a lot about Aaron Glenn here and what the Bills did. And, I did a lot of reading up on how the Bills had their way with the Lions, a game in which they piled up 559 yards and 40 some odd points, 45 points in that win in Detroit. This is a Lions team that is dealing with a lot of issues in terms of their linebacker group, and what they did was attack. Buffalo attacked, and great job in their scheme with Ty Johnson, as you talked about, Connor. Attacking with Ty Johnson as their top receiver, 5 catches for 114 yards. Their tight ends combined for 14 catches for 251 yards on 18 targets. Their running backs and tight ends. So other teams are going to look to exploit that. And now it is on Aaron Glenn to find a way to disguise their issues, Connor, on defense with talent. The talent deficiency is obviously at a high level. They were playing a lot of straight man in this game. The idea here, and what a lot of speculation is, should this team be playing more zone? Should there be more blitzing involved? They have to change things up or they will get picked off. So Aaron Glenn, heed the call.
I agree. I mean, I think that's a great thought. So the Lions, actually, they they increased their opponent passer rating decreased by 20 points. If you look 13 games from last season into 13 games in this season, I think it was like a 90-something last year passer rating against the Lions on average. It was like a 72.1 heading into last week's game. What you need to do at this point is recognize that you may need to go back to something like that, where it's sort of a bend but don't break kind of system, and you can't necessarily play up to what Dan Campbell wants you to play up to. And it's just stunning because going into this year, I thought Detroit was one of the deepest teams I have ever seen, and it would have taken only a historical anomaly on the injury front to gut them, but that's what we're looking at right now. And so can you even continue to play man defense, or do you have to really alter what you're doing? And the good thing is that they do have a backbone in that. Like Aaron Glenn has a backbone in this. Like he knows how to switch it up and to go back to what they did last year. So I'm curious if we do see kind of a fundamental shift in how they approach this.
Isn't it also, in a way, for Aaron Glenn, like this isn't what you'd want to race down the stretch drive with this roster right now, but in context, he has a chance to really win a job, because if they can win a couple playoff games, or I think they just want to go to the Super Bowl, but if you can do it like this, I was trying to think of how many teams have been this banged up that ever won a Super Bowl. And it reminded me of the Aaron Rodgers Packers team that beat the Steelers, because their IR list was wild by the time they got there. But this is a chance for him to show everyone in the league, like, I have to communicate with like 12 new people that haven't been here since training camp and make this scheme work and adjust on the fly. And so if he heeds the call, like, he's head coach material to me, Dan.
I think it goes beyond that, Mark. I think if they come out of this and right the ship and get to the Super Bowl, I think he'll have his pick of 5 jobs. I think it will be underlined that he is not only a guy that's well respected, but he went through hell and then came out on the other side okay.
He will be battling with his own offensive coordinator for jobs. That's the oddity there, but yeah.
That's true.
One thing to add here is, like, if you want to do a sub heed the call, it's probably Terry and Arnold, right? Like, where you're a rookie, you're kind of one of the last guys left here. And if the directive is to continue to play man, it's like, hey, guess who gets the number 1 wide receiver now in perpetuity until the end of the season? I mean, that's big time for them. But I really don't think it can go this way, because if you go back and watch that Bills game from last week, the way that they, even in the backfield, they used motion, they moved guys around, it was clearing out huge swaths of space for the Bills. Like, you didn't see that many walk-in touchdowns against the Lions this year. That was the first time you really saw that in a game. That's why I really do think this is a Glenn thing, which is it's prescient on your part, Dan.
Thank you. I always thought it was prescient, but I've heard prescient get.
Well, I think you could just take the compliment.
Recently.
I'd take the compliment and not correct the complimenter.
Not a correction, because I heard somebody else say prescient recently, and I was like, have I been saying it wrong?
I always thought it was prescient too, but I've not been called that, so again, you roll with it. I think you're an honorable person. You keep going. So
zip up your Eagles hoodie.
Sorry.
8 Lions rank among the top 40 defenders currently on IR when sorted by total EPA. This is from The Athletic. No other team has more than 2 in the top 40. That's historic, Connor. And one last one. This is Mike Sando. 52% of Detroit's defensive starters or direct backups are on the IR. Literally more than half. Cataclysmic.
Wow.
Connor, who needs to heed the call?
All right, so I'm going to go, which is odd. I mean, I guess naming a MVP frontrunner at this point, but Lamar Jackson. And the reason that I'm talking about Lamar Jackson is I just got done watching the Steelers matchup, the first one, because they're playing the Steelers again this coming weekend. And what's going to happen here, and what always happens, right? We saw this with Jared Goff during his run to the first Super Bowl, is the entire season becomes distilled as a quarterback in terms of what you see is all the things that gave you the biggest nightmares during the course of the season. And Pittsburgh, the way that they played Lamar Jackson, a lot of Tampa 2, they shut down the entire middle of the field. Lamar loves going to the middle of the field. And they basically forced him to throw deep and out. And they also did something really neat, which is basically lined up their defensive linemen in sprinter stances, but diagonal towards the center. And what they did was they ran straight at Lamar because they want him to give the ball to Derrick Henry, because they think that they have the tacklers, the guys who are athletic enough to handle it. And so the reason that I say that is because now, like the Giants can't play the Ravens like that. So the Ravens are just going to beat them 35-7, right? But every other team that Baltimore faces from here on out that's going to be worth their salt is going to have linebackers that can play them the way that Pittsburgh does. And so we're going to see Pittsburgh again this weekend. The Chiefs are another perfect example of a team that can play them like Pittsburgh can. And so now all Lamar is getting from here on out is the worst of it, right? And so how do you respond to that? And can you shake that narrative off your back, right? That you play poorly against division rivals, that you play poorly in the playoffs, that you play poorly late in the season. This is a big moment for Lamar, I think.
I'm with you, because even bad teams like the Browns have had these pop-up games where they diagnosed off of so much film study. Everything that you just said was fascinating. It's like they found a way. And then when that seems to happen to him, he doesn't get back on track in games. And it's not often. I mean, we're talking like 2 or 3 games a year where he gets kind of unspooled and doesn't get back on track. And it's like, everyone knows now. So if teams can do it, like this year's Lamar, who I think mentally has been fiery and wants to change all of these stories and these ideas about him, and wants the Ravens too as well. It's not just it's a Ravens story too. And it's like, we know what you're bringing at us. We're going to find a way to figure it out. And how do you win now? And they finally have the weapons, I think, to do it. They've got the running back, and they've got the wide receivers, and they've got Mark Andrews. It's like, you can do it now. Their defense needs to stop becoming a flag factory, but on offense, they can do it. So I'm with you. I think there's never been more of a heed the call candidate when you get into December and January than Lamar Jackson in these last 5-6 years.
One interesting thing, too, to add when you bring up the weapons, one of the things that Pittsburgh uniquely, right? When TJ Watt's in the game, Lamar likes to call a lot of max protect when he sees pressure. And so TJ Watt needed an extra blocker almost every time he was on the field. And so what that does is it limits the amount of people who can go out. Lamar likes to have 5 guys out there because he can just buy a little bit of time and hit somebody. But again, the deeper into the season you're going to get, every team's going to have an elite pass rusher. Every team's going to, Lamar's being blitzed a lot, right? Every team is going to send their best players at you, and every team is going to force you now to be able to make it work with maybe 2 or 3 wideouts as opposed to the 4 or the 5 that you'd like to have out there. And so sometimes these guys get lost in the shuffle. Isaiah Likely, Mark Andrews, they might not be able to help. And I think Lamar, this is also prescient, Connor. I give you props as well, because it can't be overstated that the amount of pressure on Lamar Jackson, and that's part of, I think, where all the fire is coming from. And Ravens fans don't want to hear about it. They're sick of people using that against him, but he's in that place in his career, and Josh Allen's in a similar place, even though they've had kind of different track records in the playoffs, but very different track records in the playoffs. But to the point where it's all going to be judged no matter what, even if you won another MVP, on what happens in January and hopefully for the Ravens into February. And I think when you look at their schedule, I mean, it started with some weird losses, but the last 2 that came in the last month was, 18-16 to the Steelers in Pittsburgh, 24-19 to the Eagles. And then it's almost like after you stumble and don't really move the ball like you usually do in that Philly loss, then you go to the Meadowlands and torch the Giants for 5 touchdowns and more touchdowns than incompletions. And it's almost, for the people that have their doubts, it's held against you. It's like, oh, of course you do that, but we need you to do it when it matters. So I think the Lamar of it all is one of the more fascinating subplots of the NFL, certainly when we get to January. So good one. Great one. Yes, grave digger.
I'll just add quickly on the Ravens front. First of all, we talked about the MVPs being quote unquote wrapped up after Josh Allen's incredible, stretch of games that he's been playing.
I didn't say that.
Lamar Jack.
I said it on Sunday that he threw 5. He's fine. He's in the race.
All the shows are going crazy. The new counterpoint is no, you can't say that about Josh Allen now. I mean, I get it. No one's saying that yet. Josh Allen could be kidnapped on Friday, and he's not going to win MVP if that happens.
Or just injured, that's also possible.
Yeah. Kidnapped by injury.
Well, Lamar's got a stretch of pretty good teams here where if he balls out against them, he's going to put his name back in the front of the conversation. But I also wanted to say on the Ravens front, Justin Tucker's a guy who could heed the call at some point. I think he might be called upon in the playoffs to go hit a big kick.
He will be called upon.
He will be. And then Deontay Johnson is a guy for the Ravens that is just like one of the weirdest trades of the year was the Ravens trading for Deontay Johnson. Then he refuses to enter their week 13 game. So they suspend him for their week 15 game because they had a bye week 14. And now he's been excused from team activities this week after he and the Ravens mutually agreed on that arrangement. So I don't know what's going on with the Ravens receiving.
I don't think he's a heed the call candidate, though. He's probably
he's
show up to
certainly
work.
not. He's
It
reverse
was
heed
just
the
a
call.
point.
You know what I think it
point
is?
on the Ravens passing game is being weird.
The guy in the Niners, Devondre Campbell, he did the same thing, and then the Niners and the whole world declared jihad against him. With this situation, it feels like the Ravens have taken a more internalized approach in terms of this mutiny or this desertion of the team. But yeah, he's obviously not been the guy that they were hoping he was. But the Ravens, they are a very fascinating figure in the AFC. All right, let's take a break. And by the way, I gave Justin Tucker a pep talk a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I
think he
he took
responded.
that to heart.
Yeah,
I think he responded.
I think so.
I think he'll be okay. He didn't
What
have
human
to
wouldn't?
attempt a field goal against the Giants, just the 5 extra points, but he will be facing challenges down the road. Let's see what happens. All right, let's take a break, and then we'll hit one more of these and then move to the Week 16 preview. How's your fantasy football season going? Not quite how you expected. Ugh. Well, the good news is football is not the only sport on the calendar right now. The NBA season is in full swing too. And Underdog has tons of fun ways to get in on the action, even if your fantasy football season is going great. Maybe you want to carry that momentum over to another sport. That's how it works, by the way. You can draft a new team each night and compete against other users, where Underdog is giving away over $100,000 every night. Or build yourself an NBA Pick'em entry with discounts and promos dropping all the time. You can even create Pick'em entries that combine football and basketball plays. Doesn't matter that they're two different sports. So download the Underdog app, sign up with the code HTC, and receive up to $1,000 in bonus cash for our U.S. audience only.
The search for truth never ends. Introducing June's Journey, a hidden object mobile game with a captivating story. Connect with friends, explore the Roaring 20s, and enjoy thrilling activities and challenges while supporting environmental causes. After 7 years, the adventure continues with our immersive travels feature. Explore distant cultures and engage in exciting experiences. There's always something new to discover. Are you ready? Download June's Journey now on Android or iOS.
'Twas the nights before Christmas. Despite last-minute stress, few were delivering except Walmart Express.
Stockings were hung by the fire with care, knowing in about an hour stuffers would soon be there.
On to the road, Walmart Express delivery went. Chock full of wondrous things in the St. Nick of time sent. Let's go!
Get express delivery in as fast as an hour, even on Christmas Eve. Orders must be placed by 4 p.m. local time on 12/24. Subject to availability. Fees and restrictions apply.
Express delivery to y'all and to all a good night. Welcome to your Walmart.
All right, we're back. By the way, before we get into the last Heed the Call, I should mention that in addition to the upcoming HallmOrrk Spectacular at the end of today's episode, tomorrow night, Wednesday, at, let me get this right, got to get this plug right, the HallmOrrk film Holiday Touchdown, Chiefs Love Story, a watch-along with Conor Orr, Mark, myself, Justin, and maybe some special guests. Will be live on patreon.com/heedthecall at 8:20 Eastern PM on Wednesday, 5:20 PM Pacific. Join us. Join the Patreon. Join that. Okay, now back to it. Heed the call. Marc Sessler, wrap us up.
You know, for me, it's Mike Tomlin, and I think this is someone who has heeded the call. Year after year on teams that should have underperformed, they overperformed. But it's been a long time since Mike Tomlin has really taken a team the distance. And I think right now they're at a point in their season where we are wondering who you are. You were beaten up by the Eagles. And I don't see a big shame in that, because the Eagles, I think, are the best team in the NFC, not just because I'm wearing this today. But they've got problems. Like the Steelers are a team they're going to have to coach their way and be a team to get out of this, because without George Pickens, and right now he may not be back for a while, but without George Pickens, it feels kind of like a Damashek Jenga piece. Without him, they're 29th in success rate, 30th in offensive EPA, 27th in dropback success rate. And they were absolutely taken to town. I think their defense, which has always been the core of the Steelers, by an Eagles offense, and we talked about it on Sunday, was one of the most impressive drive of the season. A 21 play, they didn't even score points, the Eagles. 21 plays, 88 yards, 10 minutes to just end the game. How often are the Steelers humiliated in that fashion? And you have to wonder with this team, what happens next? George Pickens may not be back. TJ Watt is compromised. So what do you do? Here is what I do if I'm Arthur Smith. I put Arthur Smith in the basement below like Pittsburgh Paint and Tools Auto Shop with a projector and like General Tso's Chicken and say, we've got to take a look at this offense. And we go absolutely bloody. We begin to attack with a sense of darkness if we don't have our deep threat, our George Pickens. And I think if you're Mike Tomlin, you are pounding 6-packs of beer downtown at like Big Helen's Bar and Tavern. You take Darnell Washington, who is 6'7", 264 pounds, and you start to use him all over the field as an absolute destroyer across from Pat Freiermuth. Calvin Austin, you need to shift and create 14 new plays for this speed merchant who can absolutely get open downfield and expand his role. Jalen Warren becomes the beating heart of this offense, and you find a way to take care of this schedule, which is brutal down the stretch. You've got Baltimore, Kansas City, and it's Cincinnati. And none of us care about Cincinnati's record. That's not where I want to be in Week 18 with everything on the line. So you need to get guys like Alex Highsmith and everyone else to take Lamar Jackson and turn him into a pile of leaves. This is when Mike Tomlin, who I always think is Coach of the Year material, can actually really become that with a team that no one expected would be here, with a quarterback that no one expected would be here. You are the Pittsburgh Steelers. There's no sports team on the planet that is like you. Amplify the guys behind the guys and go out and take care of the end of your schedule. And Mike Tomlin becomes the thing that we know he is, which is a shining and gleaming gem.
Like it. I don't need to be convinced on Tomlin. I do need to be convinced on Arthur Smith and still Russell Wilson. So like I like the Steelers as a topic. I more like teeter it to like, can Arthur Smith continue to heed the call and rehab where he is at in his career? And is Russell Wilson, is this ultimately for real? Is this, and I think we're going to learn a lot because things obviously didn't work out against Philadelphia, right? And then at Baltimore, now Baltimore obviously we know have had their problems defending the pass, so there should be some lanes there. But then, like you said, the schedule's not easy. The Chiefs after that, and then the Bengals, another team not known for their defense this year. But I'd like to see the Steelers continue to be dangerous offensively and not kind of being propped up by more of a narrative that now they're exciting. Because watching that game, the Eagles-Steelers game, I'm like, man, this kind of feels a little bit like the other Steelers games the last few years. I hope this whole thing doesn't run out of steam and we're stuck with a Tomlin team that's just trying to grind them out again. So I feel like it's set up well for somebody that has to step up to take the Steelers from good team overachieving this year to actual contender.
I'm with you on Arthur Smith, and that's why I mentioned it. But like, I think for Tomlin, he feels like the coach that it's like, you've won 9 games, you get into the wild card and either win or lose. And it's like, there's always a stopping point. Like, I kind of just want to see like the pyramid of the coaching staff take them deeper than we ever would have expected. And it starts with him. And it's not like he's some sort of figure of contention. We know that he's good, but it's like, take them beyond where we thought. Knock off the Chiefs in the playoffs. That would do it for me.
Yeah, I think doesn't Connor, like Tomlin, maybe what's been missing for Mike Tomlin since the last Super Bowl run is, the big time quarterback or the play caller that can elevate that side of the ball. He needs that, right? Like, do you think he has enough on that side of the ball, enough help on the coaching staff, enough talent at the QB position, and obviously the rest of that offense to be that team? Because I kind of think they're maybe locked in that second tier with no escape.
I think that I like Arthur Smith. I think in kind of reconsidering those Falcons teams and how atrocious they really were, and I think we thought about them differently because they're like, oh, you have a cool running back and a tight end that's sort of big and hurt sometimes. It's like we expected them to be all of a sudden like the 2000 Rams, and I think that Arthur Smith a lot was kind of the victim of circumstance there, but those teams were really tough. They were actually only behind Mike McDaniel in terms of explosive plays while he was with Atlanta, which is crazy if you think about it, with Desmond freaking Ridder as your quarterback. But I like Arthur Smith, the play caller. I think that these Steelers teams of old were so crazy deep at wide receiver, at running back, at all these other positions that they're just simply not now. But I would put it to you guys is like, do we reopen the Justin Fields conversation at this point? Is this a week that we talk about Justin Fields even playing half of the snaps? Is this a situation where, you know, he had a zone read package at the end of that last Ravens game that helped them put it away? Do you roll that out more frequently? You know, I don't know the answer to that, but like, is that something that you do to maybe get Art Smith going? Because Russell Wilson is not that, you know, and Russell would prefer to hang in the pocket, but he's still not that kind of player.
That's like where he used Cordero Patterson in so many different ways.
I'm a degenerate.
Like Cordero Patterson was used that way. It's like I wouldn't mind more Justin Field in certain spots, but I wouldn't hand too much over to him. Seeing how, like, if you, again, I really think it comes down to the Pickens, like, Russell Wilson connection was such a difference maker here. But I don't hand over the 3 games and the opponents especially to Justin Fields as the lead guy. Side guy, sure.
Did anyone else, by the way?
Justin has been an asset to us, man.
Did anyone else totally forget that Cordero Patterson was on this team? And then I think in addition to that, he wore something very heavy underneath his uniform, and they ran like a toss play to him at the end of the Eagles game, and it was like they tossed the ball to number 84, and I was like, why the are they throwing it to is the tight end running the ball? Like, and then it took me like 2 minutes to be like, oh yes, Cordero Patterson is on this team, and of course he's getting the ball late in this game. Why not?
Yeah, and along those same lines, you had, you know, the Mike Williams acquisition. Also, he had the touchdown catch in his first game, and he's kind of been pretty quiet for them as well since. So there's not, you know, it's not like they're overflowing with talent on that side of the ball.
I think they've done what they could, though, right? Like, I mean, there are some teams that have made it to this point, and you're like, why didn't you do anything at the trade deadline? And Mike Williams is not something, but it's not nothing, right? And I do think that, you know, they've recognized their deficiencies.
He has 4 catches in 5 games since that Washington debut, for the record. All right. There you go. Heed that call. Good luck to you, everybody. Now we're going to turn our attention to Week 16. Can you believe it? That's crazy. Legitimately insane.
They're just talking about the August opener where we mentioned Conor's holiday special. It feels like
this is unbelievable.
It feels like 4 hours ago.
Have you noticed, by the way, that you said it's legitimately insane that that the NFL now puts insane ending on every one of their YouTube clips for like the end of a game, or crazy, but it's always crazy and insane, which are like clinical terms that we use for people that are like being outdated in the sport, you know, are being phased out of the sports lexicon. But like, I love that, like we've just lost all grip on the art of the language, and it's just like, okay, you know, the Spencer Rattler overthrows a guy, and it's just like insane ending, and it's like it's not insane. It's
nothing has tangible meaning at this point.
Those words going from clinical medical terms to just clickbait for garbage videos that are wasting your time.
Spencer Rattler pass of all things.
I hope Thursday night, because I feel like maybe we hit a little bit of a bump in the road. We were on like a major heater with the primetime games. I feel like Week 15 wasn't quite about it. So maybe we'll get back to it in Week 16, starting with, a big AFC West showdown. The Denver Broncos and the Los Angeles Chargers. The Broncos are right on the doorstep now of locking up a playoff berth. And you get a Chargers team that's coming off a pretty dispiriting loss, obviously, against the Buccaneers at home, getting blown out in their own building. Justin Herbert a little bit beat up. So you got a really good matchup here that could have big playoff ramifications, if nothing else, in terms of seeding and positioning, because the rest of the AFC behind the Broncos and Chargers not looking so hot. So it could be more dramatic if some of those teams behind them could win a few games in the last month, but they were unable to. But still, we could get a good one here, Mark. What did you take out of that Chargers performance on Sunday? You were watching it live.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think like as more people get into that game as the week goes on, it was pretty stunning, because I think that's like had the result been in reverse, and I knew about it in September, I would have been like, well, that makes sense because that's sort of everything that we thought a Jim Harbaugh team would do to someone else down the stretch at home. Because I would have think like the Bucs and the Chargers, I put them in the same category. But instead, you get a hot Bucs team that puts 200 yards on the Chargers defense, which was the lowest scoring unit coming into the week. Now they're not. Now Denver is, so welcome to that. They're getting absolutely flamed by Baker Mayfield, all right? The defense of the Bucs absolutely massacred Justin Herbert. That was one of the biggest concerning elements in this. He doesn't look healthy. He's got lower body issues. He's got a thigh issue, and he just could not move the way you wanted. And I think we're learning that just makes the way you throw is changed off of that, your confidence level, and they really got to him. And now you're playing Denver's defense. So I think that's very concerning. Their run game without J.K. Dobbins, he went to IR, has been not the same. And you're lucky, you're like fortune cookie blessed that Ladd McConkey is who he is. Because other than that, you're leaning on Quentin Johnston. Now, Quentin Johnston, only 4 more players have more touchdowns than him. So I do think that points to their coaching, and it points to what they've been able to do with what they have. But they are weapons poor, and I don't think they're able to be the Chargers team we want. So I think there's a lot of pressure this week specifically on the Jim Harbaugh kind of brand and experience to say, we're a game behind Denver, and if you beat Denver, you've swept them. That changes everything over the next 3 weeks of the season.
I couldn't believe, just going back and watching that game again, Justin Herbert was one of the most blitzed quarterbacks in the NFL that week. And Levante David is amazing, but he's also 34. And in that game, he would just press the line of scrimmage. And if he saw an opening, he would just take it. And Justin Herbert could not get away from him and could not get away from anybody. And, you combine that with the fact that, again, Quentin Johnston is good when there's space in front of him and, he has time to focus on it. But Herbert needed him to go up and get balls, to smash people and to be physical. And he just wasn't getting it. And I wonder if, Vance Joseph almost does the same thing where it's you have all these athletic guys in your front. You have some tough dudes up front too. Do you just absolutely just fire at the pocket again and dare Justin Herbert to get away from you? Because he might not be able to.
On the Denver side of things, I'm curious to see what we get from Bo Nix. So Nix threw 3 interceptions against the Colts. If the Colts were even halfway decent as a team, I would say that they could have beat Denver. I think Denver was ripe for the picking in that game, and instead the Colts refused to be competitive. And the Broncos, and to their credit, they made big plays, none better than Nick Bonito's amazing defensive touchdown in that game. But Nix he threw 3 picks in that game by the third quarter, and he had 2 interceptions the prior week. And I'm just curious where Sean Payton goes from here. Is he working with the kid quarterback to rein him in? Are we going to see a more conservative version of Nix this week and moving forward, or is he going to continue to attack the field in the way that made him a Rookie of the Year candidate in the weeks leading up to Week 15? So that to me is on the offensive side of the ball for Denver is very interesting to see. The other side of this with Denver is, Bonito is now, I think he is in the conversation at least for Defensive Player of the Year. He's been making plays all year long, and you wonder why is Denver been surprising? They have Bonito in the middle of their defense, and they have Patrick Surtain, who's arguably the best cornerback in the league. That's going to lead to a lot of positive aspects and positive developments for your team. Now, important to keep in mind that Surtain hurt his ankle against the Colts, and it's a nagging issue. And I don't know, Justin, what do we have the latest with Surtain with his ankle going into this game?
Full participant in practice on Monday, and very encouraging sign that he could play on Thursday night.
So there you go. So, those are the 2 points for me, Connor. What do you see from Nix in this game? And Surtain being healthy helps them so much.
I agree. I'm eager to see. I think this is one of those sneaky games where I would watch and see if Peyton tries to rein Bo Nix in by allowing him to win the game with his legs. I mean, Bo has shown a shocking amount of athleticism. He sort of weaponized the slide, which I love. I don't know if anyone else has noticed this, but
Interesting.
During games when he slides, like he declares it, but he almost does like a hard jump baseball slide, and it seems to me like he picks up like an extra 2 or 3 yards because no one wants to go stop
he's
him
airborne.
cleats out. Like
Yeah.
he's like cleats out, like karate. It's almost like a karate kick if you watch him like slide. But I mean, he's been athletic all year, and I do wonder if like, okay, the Chargers are a little bit older up front. You might be able to find a way around them in that way, like try to zone read your way into some first downs and stuff, and just get Bo Nix involved that way, get him comfortable. Doesn't necessarily have to be that way, but I think one of the things that Sean Payton loves about Bo Nix is that Nix has stood up to him in every moment where, there's been aggression on the table, whether he's right or wrong. I mean, Bo Nix wants to throw those balls. I mean, that's why he won that interview with Peyton in the pre-draft process. And Peyton took a guy that, I mean, there were NFL teams I don't think that had him as a first-round grade on him, to their detriment, But, Nix has got to continue to be himself, too. You're going to have 3 interception games. You had a 5-interception game from Jared Goff a couple weeks ago.
And to your strategy note there, like Baker Mayfield, 2 for 25 on the ground, but if you go and watch what happened, especially in the second half, it was the most Baker Mayfield game ever. And if they didn't get flagged like 2 or 3 times on critical Baker Mayfield runs, he would have had about 80 yards.
Yeah.
So there's a real vulnerability there, and I think that you're absolutely right. Sean Payton's going to pick up on that and say, we're using Nix for that reason.
All right, so let's see what happens. And just as I pointed out, the AFC playoff picture is a little bit muddled in the back end, unfortunately, because we got teams like the Colts and the Dolphins and the Bengals that continued to just shoot themselves in the foot. So it's very likely that both the Broncos and Chargers make the playoffs. That said, think about nobody wants to face the Buffalo Bills. So if you get that 7 spot, if you manage to win the wild card round, you're up next in Buffalo. So getting out of that spot and protecting, I think the whole idea right now in the AFC is, can we avoid the Buffalo Bills as long as possible? And then people will say, well, you also want to avoid the Kansas City Chiefs, and you want to avoid the Baltimore Ravens. But no, not at the level, I don't think,
No.
you want to avoid Buffalo in the first round of in their first playoff game after essentially a bye week while you're in warfare. So a lot on the line. Even if it's more a long-term situation for these teams. All right. Now. By the way, Broncos clinch a playoff berth with a win or a tie. Chargers clinch playoff berth with win and a Dolphins loss and a Colts loss. Permutations. And I don't even have to wear dumb brown khakis to do it. Ayo, Karnecki shot in a big spot.
I'm glad you did that, by the way. Like,
took a shot at Karnecki?
Yeah, I mean, I like him. He's wonderful on television. But this idea that, like he's just reading things as they come in fast. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like... And every one of these goddamn polls is wrong. They've been all wrong since 2016.
Right.
The only people who are taking poll questions are crazy elderly people in the Midwest. Like, they're useless. And so to have the poll numbers just read at me fast is just a thing of the past. I don't think we need it.
Well, there is that, but then they've used him on the football front, and it feels like sloppy seconds, because that's just stuff that you could read like in an NFL preview magazine coming out each week too. But the one thing I do think about those polls, like the John King, it's like, how on earth have you memorized the name of every county in the entire country? Like I couldn't. That's one thing I could not do unless you got a guy in your ear. And it's like he's just whipping around going through things. It's like, we've got Franklin County over here. We've got. It's like, how do you know all this stuff? What is going on? Like, yeah.
I don't know. I guess I'm a basic because I do like Karnecki, and I know he's just on the Sunday night pregame show. All he's doing at halftime is doing like mathematical probabilities, but I'm into it. I love it. And he seems like a nice guy to me, and I don't understand why nice guys don't last on the show.
Right. I have no problem with the person. I have a problem with the information.
I hear you, buddy. All right. Without further ado, have some kindness in your heart, Conor Orr. It's the holiday season. And that means, as has been teased for months on this program, it is time, finally, for the Conor Orr HallmOrrk Holiday Spectacular 2024. And for those that are unaware, we mentioned at the top of the show, Conor and his wife are huge fans of this programming. It is unironic. It is real as it gets. And what we do on the show is every year we take advantage of this Karnacki-like insight that he has, just like to be plugged in the way this man is. It would be a sin not to use him and have it get out there. So what we do, we focus on Hallmark films specifically.
Yeah.
Because as Conor, often you point out, there are a lot of imitators out there.
Mm-hmm.
But there's only one Coca-Cola, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can't have access to the secret recipe, you know?
Yeah. Can you explain to me why we're talking about one that's a Hallmark original and one that's Hallmark mystery? Is there a quick explainer there? Because it was literally driving me crazy.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, there's two different channels, obviously. And so as a cable watcher, like there is Hallmark and then there's Hallmark Mystery. We are subscribed to both of them, obviously. And it's, I don't know, I don't know if it's like a bean counting thing or whatever. I try not to get, it's like the thing where don't go into the kitchen of your favorite restaurant. I try not to get too far into the weeds there. But Hallmark Mystery, I do believe they're doing like a blend of like a Christmas murder thing at some point, so like I do think they're diving into some different tentacles, which will be interesting. Yeah,
very interesting. All right, so without further ado, we're going to dig into two films and that are on your list. And how has the year been overall from the Hallmark perspective? This has been a juicy year,
really strong. We had Lacey Chabert in a movie where they're filming in Iceland. And it's like a mystery sort of. What was the Tom Hanks Da Vinci Code kind of like thriller? Like I do think that they're extending their reach while also hitting the home runs, the clean singles, right?
Yeah,
that I kind of recommended for you guys. But I do want to make one point of clarity in this, and that's just
go ahead.
that. So my wife and I do watch normal movies because like I feel like it does get to the point where like it seems like I have like a Disney style mental illness,
weird,
like and we do, but to tie a bow on it, like the last two movies, so we have young kids, right? And so in order to Hallmark fits perfectly into a movie night because it's like, okay, it starts at 8, it's over at 9:40, we're not exhausted, we can pay attention to it, it's in and out, But, the last two times that we sat down to watch a like critically acclaimed film or like this movie that everyone was talking about, they were goddamn terrible. And it's just like, I feel like movies now that are like popular on Netflix, like the must-watch movies, are like, they're just not finishing the job anymore. And they're really good to a point. Like the last two that we watched were The Nest with Jude Law, and there was another one called Fair Play, and the plot lines were incredible, and it's like these tense moments, and then they're just like, nah, it's over. And my wife and I are sitting there like, we just lost a date night to this.
I think I know what you mean. Like, if nothing else, you could be cynical about the Hallmark films, but at the very least, they're going to give you a beginning, a middle, and an end.
It's Chick-fil-A. Like, exactly what you're getting. Like, and you're in and out. You leave feeling good, and maybe not with Chick-fil-A, but like you leave feeling somewhat better about the world. And I have no problem with like every movie now being incredibly cynical and pointing out like all the disastrous portions of life, which seems to be, whatever. But like, they're just, it gets you what you want. You get what you need out of it,
All right. Without further ado, two films we're going to talk about here. First one is a film I watched yesterday with my wife last night. We knocked it out. Very easy. It was All I Need for Christmas. Let's play that trailer.
You sound great.
I just want to write something that will make my fans happy, but every step feels farther from my heart.
When the music starts to fade,
dreams only die when you stop watering them.
Can a Christmas romance bring it back?
Are you saying I should shake things up?
Yeah, shake things way up. Trust me.
All I Need for Christmas. Part of Miracles of Christmas. Only on Hallmark Mystery.
Okay.
So I picked this one specifically for you, Dan.
Oh, really?
Okay,
go ahead.
I thought that you would appreciate, and I'll get to the reasons why I liked it in a second, but I thought you would specifically appreciate the plot line of this movie, which is very much it's an age-old, boy meets girl story, but it's also a kind of a deeper examination of talent in the digital age and the survival of the singer-songwriter, which I thought you would maybe take some interest in.
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting in that the film really, to me, it was like Succession crossed with a Hallmark Christmas film, and then also there's like a lingering subplot where the lead, the woman in it, I think is Molly or something. She is very anti Archer, who's the guy, because he works in tech. So I think this cross pollination,
prescient.
Boardroom intrigue, the wonders and the advancements, but also the dangers and the aversion to big tech invading our lives, all stuffed into this small town in upstate New York near the Finger Lakes. Unbelievable. And I thought the thing that really jumped out to me on this one, Connor, is that Archer, I read one review that I put really well, grew up in a dystopian capitalist nightmare with a father who pitted his son and daughter against each other, going as far to deny Christmas gifts to the child who earned less money during the fiscal year. Mm-hmm. Just barbaric, diabolical shit. So everyone has their own childhood issues, but Archer is the type of guy that has a lot to fight against. And my last point is his character is also the one, in fairness, Connor, that I continue to resent in these films. My wife was super into him. At one point, even remarked that he has big feet, and I was like, "Whoa, slow down."
The actor.
Yeah.
Okay.
His character, Mark, is handsome.
I watched this this morning.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
Handsome, kind, compassionate, wealthy, and able to cook Cinnabons from scratch.
First of all, I thought he was like a bit of a BJ Novak combined with a young Robbie Williams. I was trying to figure out who he reminded me of. For the background that you mentioned, to have such a disassociation with his own father and with his sister too. There's a lot of stuff going on that gets healed in this film.
Sister's a nightmare.
Well, that all gets solved though over time. He is extremely compliant, extremely domesticated, and rolls into this town with a lot of cheer. And I get he won her over. The girl, to me, I think you're right, Connor. To your point, she does not believe in the new age of music production. She wants to be taken seriously as an acoustic, and he's sort of the villain. I did find it funny that she has this active manager / agent who can only get her jobs in cafes. Anyone that's tried to get an
piece
agent,
of shit, that guy.
Well, but if you've tried to get an agent, you don't get an agent by being someone doing $14 shows in a coffee shop on the side of town. But I guess that's how this works. But
that's why I thought the role was so perfectly cast, because I think that we all have someone in our lives who deep into their 30s still harbors this dream of performance in some way, shape, or form, and they will refer to their 900 followers as fans on Instagram.
Right.
And so this girl did perfectly. I know that person. That person is in my life and actually does kind of look like her, and so it really hit home for me there. But I think the boxes that it checks for me here, you have to have a good meet that is very Christmassy. And so I think the meetup here was good in that he never really had a Christmas tree, didn't know how to chop down a Christmas tree. That was one I had not seen before, and she comes in, shows me how to saw down a Christmas tree. I thought that was a good one. And the other secret ingredient for me is it has to have a weird character actor that I like from something else. And the singer-songwriter's dad was in a Lifetime original movie about the woman who kept poisoning all of her husbands with antifreeze.
Oh, yeah.
Perfect.
And so, that's honestly one of my wife and I's favorite parts is where do I know that guy? And it's that's the guy who got killed by drinking antifreeze in a Lifetime movie. So all of that together, you know, that gets me to like at least like an 8 out of 10 on this.
Yeah, his parents really got on, or the parents of the woman Maggie really got on my nerves. They were just always around at all times.
Well, they also
take
they
a
wanted her
break.
to be with him right away. Like
Yes.
they couldn't have been more kind of like just moving the plot along, I thought.
Right, and then I was going to ask you how many made from scratch Cinnabons out of 10 you give this film, but I just want to add one last thing. Other than the Archer being the classic archetype of men that I think in these movies that sets us all back, like I said, handsome, kind, compassionate, wealthy, could cook Cinnabons from scratch, has never farted. Like this non-realistic depiction of men creates unrealistic expectations for the women who predominantly watch these movies, and I don't like it. And finally, the hardest thing to do, they really swung for the fences in this one, Connor, which I respect. You remember That Thing You Do, the Tom Hanks's directorial debut in 1996 about the band called The Wonders, and that entire movie hinges on there being a song that became a sensation, a Beatles-like sensation. So the song for the movie has to sound like a song that would be a huge hit and a sensation, and that is really hard to do. And that song was actually written by Adam Schlesinger of Fountains of Wayne, rest in peace to Schlesinger. But the song that they have in this, because her whole dream is, I need to write the next great Christmas song. They unveil it at the end of the movie, and it's just her saying, wrap my arms around you like a ribbon, like 20 straight times. And I'm like, they didn't pull that off, and I have to ding it for that. That's
good observation.
That's fair. I was surprised Mark was talking about how hot the male lead in this was. Your wife
I didn't
was
say
talking about
how hot. I just said he looked like. I was trying to figure out who he looked like.
I think and Dan, your wife was mentioned it, but like
mentioned the size of his feet at one point when he's walking at the Christmas
sex
tree.
addiction? You got a problem with sex? You addicted to sex? A sex addiction or something?
I'm always surprised at, well, I guess I'm not surprised because the answer is never me, but like who other people find attractive. And like if I were to power rank, your kind of Hallmark leading men, like he's not in my top 7 or 8, but the feedback I'm getting from this is very interesting. Like I'm gonna have to ask my wife what she thinks about it.
Yeah, I'm sure she was clocking his feet too. All right, to our next trailer for a film. Now, I did not see this one, so you guys could guide me through it. This film is called, what is it?
Santa Tell Me.
Santa Tell Me.
Santa Tell Me. Like the title.
You like that title. Santa Tell Me.
What if, instead of giving a holiday makeover to some stranger's house, you revisit your own childhood home?
Oh, wow. The name of your true love is Nick.
3 rom-com worthy meet-cutes, all with guys named Nick.
Aaron Krakow and Daniel Lissing, a holiday tale about finding true love.
Nick!
Yes! In the nick of time.
You have a little snow in your hair.
Santa Tell Me on Hallmark Channel.
Okay, this one on traditional Hallmark, and I'll note one trope just from the trailer, and the same thing happened in the other film. In every film, there's a moment when the couple is sitting together and they've yet to kiss. They usually don't kiss to the very end of the movie, but when they're having a moment, a tender moment where they're connecting, it must always start snowing.
Yes.
What's up with that?
I think I will say this, that this year there were several, my wife and I both noted this, earlier kisses than we've had. Maybe like 2/3 of the way in, which has been surprising. Like it's a nice little mix up, change up in the formula, but you have to have it. It has to look right, like it has to feel right. There has to be mistletoe. There has to be lights in the background. Okay. Like this is a sensory thing, It's
always
touching
CGI snow now too, which bothers me. I like the practical effects with the snowflakes, but that's another thing. Your thoughts, guys, on this film?
You have Aaron Krakow, who's if you're looking at like sort of your Greg Maddux Hallmark workhorse, like she is just classic in every sense of the word, like just the person who gets it from start to finish. It's just like, this is how I'm supposed to act. This is how I'm supposed to absorb my Christmas wonder. This is how I'm supposed to accidentally walk with the hot coffee and slam into the hot carpenter. Like this is, she has all the moves down. There's no misfire on this. There's no there's no cringeworthy moment here. Just like where you're like, like she's a pro's pro when it comes to Hallmark.
And do all these Nicks get a turn? Like, is that what part of the film? Is there anything
so basically
erotic to it, or
she? I wouldn't call it erotic, but
she finds she's a home renovation show host, and
Smart.
So the new producer that gets flown in to kind of big time her suggests that she reno her own home, own childhood home for Christmas. And at the beginning, it starts with like her wishing to Santa Claus that she wants this magical, perfect life partner and whatever, and then he never answers the wish. Well, she's going through the house and she finds a magical letter from Santa that's just like, you're going to find the love of your life and his name's going to be Nick. And then she runs into 3 hot dudes in 5 minutes named Nick, and surprise, it's none of those guys. So...
Yeah, so I've never watched one of these before in my life, at least that I can recall. And about 15 minutes, and I was like, why does Conor watch these, and what's pulling him in? And like, I was just being honest, kind of just cynical, but I wasn't like, I was watching it with my girlfriend. I'm like, Conor's like one of my favorite people, so we're going to keep watching this. But, we're 20 minutes in, and she's met 3 of the hottest guys that you'd ever see, and they're all extremely charming, and they do to your point, Dan, they do everything that like whether an alpha male or like extremely tall, they're all like 6'5" with like the best hair you've ever seen, and like they're blowing her off her feet, and so like and she also has the producer guy who you can tell they don't get along, so she's got that nice tension, and so she's got 4 guys in her life 21 minutes into the movie, but she's still somehow without. Like, she's still telling the classic trope sister character, like, I don't know what to do, and I don't have any answers, and I'm alone. It's like, you have 4 very intriguing men who are dating you literally at the same time. So that, my blood was starting to boil a little bit, but I'll tell you what happened then. The story goes on.
Christmas miracle.
Well, the story goes on, and each of these guys kind of work their way out of the equation. Until the producer guy that was flown in, and like the one that she haggles with, like he emerges as this perfect sort of soulmate for her, and you find out that his name actually was not his name, and it was Nick, and like they had, and I am a sucker for rom-coms. Like I'll say this to end my point, that like when you go watch like the end of like Crocodile Dundee, I saw that in the theater as a kid, and like it made me cry. Like Love Actually made me cry. Pride and Prejudice made me cry. Notting Hill made me cry. Like, I don't know what's going on, but this movie then did the same thing at the very end when they finally have that kiss, and I was like, I get it, Conor. I get it. I finally get it. I'm not going to go watch one of these every day, but it was like, it made me less cynical about the holidays, about everything, and like, I kind of totally see the anchor and the weight around why you do it. It was a joy.
That makes me so happy. I'm curious your take, Mark, though, that the pediatric neurosurgeon was absolutely the correct choice for her. Like, even though she did go at the very end to the producer and it's the secret guy, the first guy that she like meet cutes in this one at a coffee shop, they order the same like high fructose corn syrup gingerbread latte, and he has one of the best pickup moves that I've ever seen in my life, which is that they both ordered the same coffee. He takes her cup, and then he takes his cup and writes his phone number underneath it and hands it to her and says, maybe we go get something together sometime.
Well, no,
and
he
walks
was
away.
he seemed perfect for it, but that's what was getting me annoyed, because it's like, if you're watching this with someone that you maybe in the deep distance you did your version of this, but now it's like you're just hanging around on the couch all the time, right? And you got kids, it's like whatever's going on. It's like you just seem like a 2 compared to this person that you're like imagining them at a coffee shop and someone doing the same thing, and it's like, I don't need this energy in this living room right now. But then they all find a way to make themselves look a bit foolish throughout. Like, he got conked in the head or something like that, and like I love when that happens. So
he did a great line, which actually, like, I don't normally like audibly laugh, but he is a pediatric neurosurgeon who like helped children in other countries, and their link was that they it
was like Doctors Without Borders.
Yeah, and also pulled off a perfect adult mohawk, which was like, or like a half mohawk.
I'll have to watch this film.
Incredible.
I gotta check this out.
I think this would connect with you, Dan, this one.
I don't know if I'll cry, but I have to watch this.
So they connect over their love of this ice skating rink, and that they both went to as a child. He rents the whole thing out, and they're ice skating, they're talking, they're getting along well, and they slip and fall backwards. And he looks at her and he says, you know, as a doctor, I would suggest you put ice on it. And because they're laying on a skating rink. And I was like, this guy is just, he's pretty good. Got it, man.
Diabolical.
You know, like, yes, like, God.
I've also, during this conversation you guys have had, I just started looking at Erin Krakow's Instagram page. I'm in love, and I've now followed her on Instagram. And now we see, do I get a follow back? You know, you never know.
She's 40. She's 40. She's right in your range there.
I don't look at age as a number, and I cook my own
Nor do I.
cinnamons. Thank you. This is just a tease. I mean, I know you need more of this. We're doing a live watch of the one. Listen, we talked about these are two. Oh, how many? What would be the 1 out of 10 ice rinks or whatever?
I would do. So I did 8 out of 10 for the last one. I would do like 8.35 for this one. I thought this one was good. It was a little more inventive. And the thing with Hallmark, right, is like you got to stay in the ballpark, but you got to press up against the edges in different ways. And I thought that they found kind of some new ways to surprise me in this one. So,
all right. So check both those titles out. And the one that we've really been excited about, the first collaboration between Hallmark and the NFL, Holiday Touchdown, A Chiefs Love Story. We'll be live watching that together on Wednesday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 5:30 Pacific. So do not miss it. All right. Good stuff. Thanks to everybody for watching. We'll be back, of course, on Thursday with the Week 16 preview in bulk. And yes, make sure you sign up, www.patreon.com/heedthecall. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody. Till next time, heed the call.